Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to part 2B or part 3. We're going to talk in this clip about two needed types of translation. Many people think that translation happens from one language to another language. That's interlingual translation. But there is type of translation that happen at least at subconscious level, okay, which is intralingual translation, where the translator may need to translate the text into its own language, okay, to decipher the meaning of a sentence or an idiom or something before the translator proceeds to transfer the text from the source language into the target language. So this intra translation is a necessary step because the translator, as a step for the translator to assimilate, digest and assimilate the text before he or she reproduces that text into a target language or into the target language, the translator will have to understand it very, very well. Will have to digest it very well, or otherwise the translation would be obscure, opaque, and ununderstandable. And where we have come across translations where the target text showed some of these problems, and they all stemmed from the fact that either the translator misunderstood the text or did not spend time on digesting that text before is able to reproduce it into a target text. Translating a text from, or this intralingual translation happens, or the stage of the intralingual translation is controlled by the purpose of translating the text. Sometimes the level to which you will need to dig into the source text, seeking understanding, would definitely correlate with the purpose of the translation. So again, it's an overhead. This overhead will have to be calculated and recalculated and see whether the overhead really matches the purpose for its use or not. So it's that's subject to the translator's judgment. Now, what are inherent characteristics, or what are added values of a good translation? What comes to my mind is three. Number one, a good translation clarifies and refines the source text. Please don't be surprised if I tell you that some translations were more understandable to people who read these translations in their own foreign language than what they read, or the original text that they read in their own native language. Two cases stand out here: all the writings of Schopenhauer and Nietzsche. Those writings are clearer in English to the point that the German reader is likely to understand them better than the original texts that were written in their native language. Why? Because translation refined these texts. Translation not only provided a language transfer, but it also provided a good understanding of the original text. Now, the beneficiary of this good understanding was the person who read the translation. And can you imagine if you are reading a translation not in your native language, like the target text happens to be a foreign language to you, and you're still able to understand that text better than you're able to understand the text that's written in your own native language, either because of being removed time-wise or distance-wise or dialect-wise or this and that. But that also reflects how successful the translation is. It also keeps the attention of the easily distracted reader. You will get to see that if you're able to understand the translation better than you're able to understand the source text, if you happen to be a native speaker of that source text, that keeps your attention alive. Your attention does not drop off because a big hurdle has been eliminated, which is you're able to understand the text. And actually, you're likely to be more impressed by yourself if you were to be that reader, that you understood a text that was inherently difficult in a language that's not your native language. One sign of a good translation is that it gets published in English. You will be surprised to know that only 3% of the published text in English are translations. Only 3%. Can you see how high is the bar for a translator to clear? The English language being a dominant language, the recent statistics is that only 3% of the total published texts in English are translations. So if your translation is picked up to be translated in English, that is a yardstick of how good or how well the translator has done his job or her job. Now, I know that during the 3 clips that I have produced on translation, I may have stimulated more questions than I provided answers. And also the clips, the nature of the clips were still theoretical, although I really didn't want to imbue the clips with definitions of terminology or this and that, because at the end of the day, I'm a practitioner. I am not a professor on translation. I'm just trying to convey, yes, I have a degree in translation. I'm a licensed translator, but at the same time, I was trying to convey few tips here and there to my fellow translators to adopt if they are so inclined to. But I am sure that whatever I did just created maybe if it ever created any kind of attraction or stimulation, it may have stimulated more questions than it provided answers. And I plan to cure that in a couple of more clips that I'm going to produce on translators and translation. Maybe next time I'll talk to you about a particular text that I happen to have some observations on or some difficulties in dealing with at the time I proceeded to translate said text. Until then, I wish you all the best, and I'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.